Today is the 8th of August, and we are coming to the last part of the Khandha Samyutta. The next sutta we're going to read is 22.99 at Savatthi. The Buddha said, monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discerned of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Sorry for a moment. I should know the samsara is the round of rebirths. There's no beginning. There comes a time, monks, when the great ocean dries up and evaporates and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when Simaru, the king of mountains, burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when the great earth burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Stop here for a moment. So the first part, the Buddha says, time has no beginning. This second part is practically saying that time has no end. Unless you get rid of ignorance and craving, you will continue to wander on the round of rebirths, and there will be no end to it. So if you understand the Dhamma, then you will make an effort to practice the spiritual path and get out of samsara. Not like some people who are ignorant, they think they want to stay on in samsara and help other beings. In the Buddha's teachings, all the beings are in our mind, basically like a dream. So unless you wake up, you will continue to suffer endlessly. Suppose, monks, a dog tied up on a leash is bound to a strong post or pillar. It would just keep on running and revolving around that same post or pillar. So too, the unlearned, ordinary worldling regards body as self, regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self, etc. Or as belonging to self, or self as being in the aggregates, or the aggregates as being in the self. He just keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, around perception, around volition, around consciousness. As he keeps on running and revolving around them, he is not free from body, not free from feeling, not free from perception, not free from volition, not free from consciousness. He is not free from birth, aging and death, not free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair, not free from suffering, I say. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is giving a good simile, just like a dog tied to a pillar. You will keep running around and around that pillar. So too, we run around the round of rebirths, and the pillar represents the five aggregates. We are chained to the five aggregates. And what is this chain? The chain is the chain of desire and lust for the five aggregates. Because we have desire and lust for the five aggregates, wherever we go, it's only around these five aggregates, namely body and mind. But the learned noble disciple does not regard body as self, nor feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self. He no longer keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. As he no longer keeps running and revolving around them, he is freed from body, freed from feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. He is freed from birth, aging, and death, freed from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair, freed from suffering, I say. So that's the end of the sutta. So only when we know the Dhamma and we eliminate ignorance and we cut off the craving for the five aggregates which we take to be the self, or as belonging to the self, or as being in the self, or the self as being in the five aggregates. So when we cut off the craving for the five aggregates, then we are no longer tied to this pillar of the five aggregates, and we also stop running around samsara. The next sutta, 22.100. Monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discern of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Suppose, monks, a dog tied up on a leash was bound to a strong post or pillar. If it walks close to that post or pillar. If it stands close to that post or pillar. If it sits close to that post or pillar. If it lies down close to that post or pillar. So too, monks, the unlearned, ordinary worldling regards body thus: this is mine, this I am, this is myself. He regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness thus: this is mine, this I am, this is myself. If he walks close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he stands close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he sits close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he lies down, he lies close to those five aggregates of attachment. Stop here for a moment. So this simile is very similar to the previous one. He is always close to that pillar of the five aggregates. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus: for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Monks, have you seen the picture called Faring On? Yes, Venerable Sir. Even that picture called Faring On has been designed in its diversity by the mind. Yet the mind is even more diverse than that picture called Faring On. Stop here for a moment. This picture is supposed to be used by some people, and they go around carrying this picture. And this picture is supposed to be very complicated. It says very diverse. But the mind that designed that picture has to be more diverse to design that picture. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus: for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Monks, I do not see any other order of living beings so diversified as those in the animal realm. Even those beings in the animal realm have been diversified by the mind, yet the mind is even more diverse than those beings in the animal realm. Stop here for a moment. The Buddha is saying the animal realm has such a great variety of beings. And all of them are created by the mind. For example, in one sutta, the Buddha says there are some people who are very sly. They do things secretly, stealthily, and all that. And then they end up being born as a cat, or a rat, or a snake. Those type of beings that go secretively. And they don't even go straight. Sometimes they go bend and then. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus: for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Suppose, monks, An artist or a painter, using dye or lac or turmeric or indigo or crimson, would create the figure of a man or a woman, complete in all its features, on a well-polished plank or wall or canvas. So too, when the unlearned, ordinary worldling produces anything, it is only body that he produces, only feeling that he produces, only perception, volition, consciousness that he produces. What do you think, monks? Is body permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering subject to change, fit to be regarded as this is mine, this I am, this myself? No, Venerable Sir. Seeing thus, noble disciple becomes disenchanted in the body, and similarly for feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, and being dispassionate towards them, and then he becomes liberated. So the interesting part about this sutta is that it is our mind that creates our world. So people with an evil mind see themselves reborn in an evil world. They suffer. 22.101 at Savatthi, the Buddha said, "Monks, I say that the destruction of the asavas is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see. For one who knows what, who sees what, that the destruction of the asavas come about. Such is body, such its origin, such its passing away. Similarly, such is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, such their origin, such their passing away. It is for one who knows thus, for one who sees thus, that the destruction of the asavas comes about." Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that if we want to destroy the asavas and become liberated, attain arahanthood, we have to understand the five aggregates. Because it is the five aggregates that we cling to, that we crave for, namely the body and the mind. So if you understand the five aggregates and you understand how they arise and how they pass away, that they are impermanent, a source of suffering and always changing, and because you have no control over it, it is not yours. So it's not fit to regard the five aggregates as I or mine. So if a person understands all this, then he knows and sees the five aggregates, and then he will attain liberation. Monks, when a monk does not dwell devoted to development, this word development is bhavana, even though such a wish as this might arise in him, "Oh, that my mind might be liberated from the asavas by non-clinging," yet his mind is not liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. For what reason? It should be said, because of non-development. Because of not developing what? Because of not developing the four intense states of recollection, the four right efforts, the four bases of psychic power, the five faculties, the five powers, the seven factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path. Stop here for a moment. These, if you count them up, they are 37 total. They're called the 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas. And the Buddha says when you practice the Noble Eightfold Path fully, then you automatically cultivate all these 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas. So here the Buddha is saying that to attain liberation, you must develop these 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas, or develop this Noble Eightfold Path fully. Without developing the Noble Eightfold Path fully, it is impossible to attain liberation, enlightenment. Suppose, monks, there was a hen with 8, 10 or 12 eggs that she had not covered, incubated and nurtured properly.